Hello, everybody. My name is Mahael Abdul-Qawi. I'm the founder and representative of the Accountability Party for Human Rights, a political vanguard organization comprised of individuals who have chosen a path of self awareness and self understanding to become and to evolve into something more for themselves, for their family and friends, loved ones, and then for the community at large. In today's video, I would like to discuss right now what's currently going on in the justice system of the United States of America. We have two trials currently going on right now, both for crimes that have happened last year. One case, we have Kyle Rittenhouse, a young 17-year-old white male who went out to one of the protests in Kenosha, I believe Wisconsin. Uh, that's where it is. He went to one of the protests armed with an AR-15. His mission, according to him, was to protect all the local businesses and to provide medical aid if needed to those in trouble during these protests. I'm pretty sure he was against the Antifa side, from what I know of. I'm not too sure of the details. Personally, I haven't really looked into it that much because I didn't really care too much about the case, to be honest. When it happened last year, there was a lot of chaos going on in the summer of 2020, and there were so many deaths and so many players involved that it wasn't hard to keep up with. It was just more so which ones require um, analyzation for the short term and the long term. But at the time, I didn't see that Kyle Rittenhouse would be a case to study right now, then in the past, now, long term. So that is currently going on, and in the process, and the chaos of the events that occurred, he killed three people. According to him, all acts of self-defense. According to all the evidence that is present, it was all self-defense. Although people were trying to portray him as a domestic terrorist, a proud boy, a vigilante, a militia-esque character. And then on the other side, we have the case of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, a black man who was simply jogging, and then he was gunned down. Well, he was chased and then gunned down by two white males who took it upon themselves to kill this man because he didn't simply belong, according to them, in this neighborhood. And disclaimer, I'm only bringing up each person's race because it is important in these stories, because race is being a factor in all of these cases. Because although Kyle Rittenhouse, he didn't kill anyone who was black, he was out there at a protest that was related to the killing of a black person. The protest that he was at was a response to a racial crime. And then obviously with the other one, it was a racial killing. Because you had two people, and I'm not going to say anything about their socioeconomic status because that does not matter. Um, but you have two men who believed in a very old school way of thinking. This person does not belong here, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a black and white thing. It could just be more so this person doesn't belong because I assume that they don't belong. There's nothing greater telling me that they don't belong, but me, hyped up by my friend, colleague here, and we both assume that this person didn't belong here. So, one one case you have a teenager who killed three people in an act of self-defense. In the other case, you have two men who chased and gunned down a black man. Now, the reason why I want to discuss these two cases because they are currently going on right now at the same time. They're both a checking point in the chaos that was 2020. They are significant markers in the timeline that will be probably, probably remembered depending on how they play out. They could be something that we look back on 5, 10 years from now when we recap the events of 2020, or we could push them to the small incidents that have happened. But the reason why I want to talk about this is because if you look around on all the major lamestream media outlets, all the major news outlets, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, yeah, all the other asshats who perpetrate fear and lies. If you look at which case they're focusing on the most, it's very shocking, but also it's shocking but not shocking at the same time. Kyle Rittenhouse is getting more public attention right now, especially from the left, who are trying to label him as a domestic terrorist, and then from the right, who are trying to call Kyle Rittenhouse as a hero. Honestly, as the as an American citizen stuck in the gray matter in between, he's neither. Kyle Rittenhouse is somebody that shouldn't have been there, who did something and who committed murder in self-defense. Wrong place, wrong time. That's honestly what it is. If he wasn't there, if he was somewhere else, if he wasn't carrying an AR-15, but still killed 3 people because he was chased down fear for his life, this case might be seen very differently. Maybe. I don't know. But I think it was just the wrong place, wrong time, wrong factors. White man carrying an AR-15 around other militia people in the midst of chaos, everybody's firing. It comes off like a war zone. It comes off like, and as a persecutor is trying to apply to Rittenhouse, it feels like a Call of Duty video game. Or that's what these two factions in America are trying to make the situation become. The Antifa side on the left, and then the Proud Boys, etc., on the right. You got two groups of people who are so caught up in their head and fear and this passion to feel involved and to feel not small anymore. That they're going to war with each other, and you have every other American in between, where it's more of a conversation war. Hopefully, it doesn't become physical all around, and that could be a video for another day. But yes, Kyle Rittenhouse is getting more attention than the murder of Ahmaud Arbery, and I believe personally that is the case because, and others would probably agree, that Ahmaud's death is the easier case. It reflects a time in America's history where Afro-American male, or Afro-Americans in general, were chased down, followed, a lot of times killed if they were in places that the murderers believed they did not belong. So this case connects to that deep history. And maybe the reason why nobody wants to focus on that is because that is the actual racial crime. But it doesn't apply to a greater narrative, though, although it is obviously a racial crime. And I'm not the one to label everything as racist that, but it's obvious for what it is, and it's better if everybody agrees to that for the sake of a moral compass as a society. Whereas you have one where you can't really call him a racist, as our good old president is trying to. You can't call him a domestic terrorist for anything, because at this point, a domestic terrorist is a parent who's trying to, a parent trying to make sure that their child doesn't learn anything that they as a parent believe their child should not be learning, which is a parent's right, but they're called domestic terrorists too now. So at this point, everybody's being labeled as, probably me making these videos, I could be a domestic terrorist in some regard. I don't know. I don't know the qualifications. I sure hope not. But I don't know. But you have Kyle getting more attention because, again, for everything I just kind of like fleshed out, it's it fits into this greater narrative that they want the masses to feel like there's an enemy at all times, that there's a threat, that these people are marching down your street with assault rifles and bombs strapped to them, ready to fight anybody that they don't agree with, that these people are so GOP brainwashed and Trump brainwashed that they're going to go out there, or they're white supremacists, and then on the right conservative side, you got the Antifas, who are just a bunch of crybabies with guns, who are it's a bunch of nonsense chatter on both sides. And for everybody in between, specifically those who are aware of the gray, that we don't care. Besides protesting, it was only most protesters weren't there with guns trying to do anything. Those people were a subgroup who maximized off the opportunity that these protests brought. But for the most part, there's no narrative that's naturally happening from the people. And that's how you can tell the difference. The narrative that's pushed by the media, people can sense the bullshit. And it's always a narrative that's pushed by the media that does more damage because it's not real. They've done this many times, even in a culture sense, when they try to, back in the 90s with Tupac and Biggie. There was no real beef. And you saw what happened. 2 men died because of this. I'm not saying it was the cause, but it fueled it. You feel me? It fuels the fire even more than there's a narrative that the people made up. If people at those protests has said, this is what it is, this is what it is, then follow that narrative. But you can't follow the narrative. And even then, that's still sus in itself, but that's more so from the people who are operating between, not those at the top who are only pushing this for some agenda, so that way ultimately a politician gets votes, so ultimately somebody with more money gets. For me, it's a narrative that strikes fear, that pushes the American people to sacrifice and donate more of ourselves to these people in the name of fear. And it's really, to me, it really does suck when 2 cases that are both a product of the fear, of the anxiety, of the anger, of the mental space that we are now facing in this country, only one is being highlighted because it fits into some overall narrative, instead of let's highlight both because this is an important moment for the American people to notice, to see, and to make sure that we are getting fed everything that we are supposed to see. Like, it's important for Americans to see this, no matter what demographic, what city. You need to see these cases side by side and really see what 2020 started. But you're never going to get that as long as these people are paid out to create this narrative. And inshallah, this narrative crumbles in front of their faces, because the people are getting tired of this narrative. Because this narrative is putting the accountability again on the people who are still going to suffer the most. And those who can afford a little breathing room of accountability, they're still avoiding it. And then they manipulate reality for their favor, making it only harder for the people. So I suggest anybody who's viewing this to really look at those 2 cases, or not even look at those 2 cases, because you know they are. I think most people do, either fully or just through word of mouth. But just look at how this is another example of what the media does, and how selective they are, and how they perpetrate things, and they don't tell you the full truths, and how they edit this and edit that and give you this final copy that ultimately does not make sense with reality. And they think that we can't tell. And that's the scary part about all this.